We're happy you could attend and hope you will find the presentation interesting. My name is Jochen Hager and I will be your host throughout the session. Upfront a few administrative items. Our presentation today will take about 20 minutes with 5 minutes reserved for questions at the end. A few procedural and technical notes on this. All participants are on mute during the full duration of the webinar. Please post any questions or concerns through the questions function in your administration panel on the right side of your screen. If you cannot hear us or cannot see the presentation, please also alert us through the questions panel. Let's dive right into the topic. I'm principal and managing partner with SolutionXchg, and I'm happy to be here and guide you through our presentation on archive access from quality control production copies without replication of the underlying archive. As a little overview on the agenda, we are going to introduce the solution, a tool called the ACC or Archive Content Connector by SolutionXchg, using a specific use case, and that is a system refresh like you usually do when you copy your production system onto a QA system to have full production data and configuration available in a quality control environment. We'll talk about the benefits and the system requirements and conclude the session with a few questions at the end. Now, first, let me talk a little bit about the primary use case we're discussing today. The ACC, SolutionXchg ACC, or Archive Content Connector, has multiple use cases. The one we're reviewing today is avoiding 404 errors when accessing documents that were archived in a production environment and then could be in the production environment just by double-clicking or going to the attachment list displayed from an archive. But once you copy your system, those links that connect to the production document are broken. Usually you do not allow users in a QA environment to access production archives because for security reasons mostly, and you don't want to store any documents in your production archive that are not appropriate for storage in that system. So what happens is when you click on a link or a linked document in a QA system, typically what you get is a broken link 404 error. The document is not accessible because the configuration in OAC 0 has been changed to point to a QA archive. And here in comes the ACC. We're remedying that problem in a way that we take that incoming call from SAP and redirect it. Instead of going directly to the quality control archive, we are first checking the production archive and then checking the appropriate QA archive, and optionally any other archives. So I just noticed that the description here in the slide is not 100% correct. It should read QA archive here instead of legacy archive. I hope it's corrected in the following slides. What the SolutionXchg Archive Content Connector does is it connects your existing archive environment, and it can do so with multiple environments. And with that, it supports a number of business scenarios. It supports very different migration scenarios. It facilitates testing and development. It avoids additional configuration steps when you do a production copy of your SAP system. It does seamlessly integrate with SAP and seamlessly integrates with all SAP ArchiveLink compliant archives. Furthermore, it's very simple and fast to install and configure, almost in a self-serve fashion. The business cases are not only avoiding the for errors, but it allows safe access to production archives from non-production SAP systems for regression and integration testing. It allows seamless access to legacy archive during an archive migration or any other cutover scenarios. It allows and supports access to legacy archives during business transformation events like divestitures or mergers, where you have archives from two different companies but want to access them from one system, maybe not even merge those archives and copy the data, but just continue for at least a certain period of time to manage those two archives simultaneously. And it allows for seamless access to legacy archives in an end of life scenario when you have decided maybe to move to a new product, and potentially not even attempt a migration, but just leave that legacy archive in a maintenance mode running for another 4 or 5 years until the data is obsolete anyway, and you can just outright delete it. Now, looking at different implementation scenarios. So what happens in the case of testing and I'm trying to access a document from SAP using the ACC? Here, a typical user case, a user is in a QA system. They try to display a document, and because of a system refresh, the transaction, the document that was previously accessible and the document could be displayed wouldn't work unless you have the ACC installed. Now, with that ACC, the documents can be displayed correctly, and the documents can be retrieved in a read-only mode. So how does that work? The ACC receives a display call from the SAP QA system. It then looks at it and basically, like a roundabout, it then checks first the production archive. Do I have this document ID? Am I allowed to retrieve it with standard archiving security checks? It can fully support any SAP document keys. It supports all the SAP authorization and access restrictions you have implemented in your QA system. And with that, it can retrieve the document from the production archive, avoiding that typical 404 error you would get in the case if you wouldn't have that capability, because the document you're retrieving is an existing document in your system coming through the production copy. It would naturally not be available in the QA archive unless you would do a full copy of the QA archive. But with that read-only access we provide to the production archive, we can successfully retrieve the document. Now, what happens in the next phase when we actually look at or create a document during testing? Now, in this scenario, we're creating a test document in the QA archive. We create a test call. The call comes from SAP QA system. It then bypasses the production archive because that archive is set to read only. It cannot be written to for obvious security reasons. And the call is transferred to the quality control archive. From there, the document can be created, and then at a later point in time, without any issues, retrieved. Now, let's look at another scenario. What happens if I do a deletion call? Obviously, if I have a call and I'm trying to, by accident, trying to delete a call that is in the production archive. Now, that call would get blocked naturally, and thanks to the ACC, because the production archive is read-only. So the call itself would be issued, but the document, if it's a production document, could not be deleted. Now, obviously, if I'm trying to delete a document that I just have created newly, then the call is routed to the QA archive. And because in the QA archive, I have complete read-write capabilities, I can then successfully test and delete the document that was just created in the QA archive. Now, in some cases, it is absolutely necessary to create privacy, and even in a QA environment, which is by definition a full production copy, you want to avoid displaying any true production documents. That could be the case if you have sensitive HR documentation that you do not like to share, or any other sensitive information that is not supposed to be displayed. Now, on a archive level, we can display placeholder documents. So if the call goes out to a production archive from an SAP QA system, you're trying to retrieve an existing production document, this ACC will be clever enough to understand that this is a restricted archive, and then display a placeholder document instead of the actual document. So instead of receiving a 404 error, this particular scenario is very helpful as well. It avoids the 404 error, and at the same time displays a document that can have any text you like it to have. For example, it could read, "This document cannot be displayed for security purposes. You have executed a valid link, but you are served a placeholder document instead." So with that, the user can successfully test the business scenario, but at the same time, the actual production documents are hidden and obscured for the end user. So both elements are successfully met. The business scenario can be tested, the QA system functionality can be proven 100%. At the same time, security and privacy of the documents is maintained. Of course, even if I have placeholders in place and I create a document and I store it in my QA archive, I can successfully retrieve that document. Now, why is that? Because the document is now stored in the QA archive and not in the production archive. And anything I store in the QA environment, per definition, is deemed less sensitive in this area, or even non-sensitive. And last but not least, what happens if I try and delete or try a delete call, and I'm trying to delete a document by accident in my production archive with the placeholder activated. The delete call is blocked, and I would only see a placeholder. So for all major business scenarios, the read scenario, the create scenario, and the delete scenario, the ACC provides complete safety for all the documents that are associated and linked to your QA system. Summarizing the benefits: read access of archived document from any SAP system, no matter which archive server they were archived to. Document access is handled by SAP security. This is not circumventing SAP security in any case. Only documents that are properly linked and properly displayable through security roles and authorizations in the system you are in will be displayed. So assuming that you have access to the system, you will have access to the appropriate documents that are linked to that system as well. And with that, all SAP security is maintained. It avoids archiving documents in the wrong archive, specifically when you try and test quality control scenarios. Sometimes users directly connect production systems to that. Sometimes users forget to change the configuration from a production to a test system. Here, with introducing the ACC in the mix, no archives are archived in the wrong destination archive by accident. You significantly reduce client copy activities with this tool because there is no need to copy complete archives, which is very time consuming and resource consuming given the large size of many archives, or even try to change any link table entries or do other activities to successfully connect or even recreate test documents to even display to even prove display scenarios. For additional security, placeholder documents can be configured to show up instead of the actual production documents within a non-production environment. This is an added layer of security, again, for those highly sensitive HR scenarios, or similar scenarios where even in a QA environment, you would resort to maybe even scrambling your SAP core data or take other means and steps to avoid disclosing personal information. Now, in these scenarios, when you use a scrambling utility for your SAP data, then the placeholder function is the appropriate measure for archived documents. The ACC itself is a comprehensive offering. There is a website download for a free 30-day full functional trial. The installation can be done yourself. There is an extensive installation document with over 30 pages that carefully describes all the necessary steps for an installation, or you can request a free installation to us. We will then help you set up the server, which functions like a regular archive server. It can be fully virtualized and has a minimal footprint. Typically, I would recommend a Linux server or a very small and a small virtual Windows image, and use that as an in-between in your QA system to get access to your production archive and QA archive at the very same time. There is, from a licensing perspective or purchasing perspective, there are single server licenses. The single server licenses are sold as a perpetual license without maintenance or support payment requirements. The tool is basically sold as is, as a function, as an app that you can use to connect. Should you require an upgrade, we will give you a preferred pricing for as an existing customer as a discounted rate. So if you decide after 1 or 2 years you would like to purchase an upgraded version or a renewed version of the ACC, we would then provide you with discounted rates for obtaining the new code. We will basically acknowledge the time you have used it and give you in a reverse progression a discount for when you purchased it or how much time has passed since your large purchase. There's also enterprise licenses, which we would individually talk about. The single server license is licensed by SID production system, and you can connect as many test and QA systems to a single server license as you like. A little bit about SolutionXchg as a company. We provide business process analysis, SAP module customizing expertise, project management expertise, and enterprise content management expertise, all around business documents in SAP, and helping you either maintain your existing solution or work with you on implementing new and advanced technology that might improve your document management business scenarios in your organization. As a company, we deal with innovative European software products for the US market. We are premier reseller and system integrator of the KGS archive solution in the United States. We do have a strong SAP and archiving and document management background, and we specialize in low-cost, high-quality, high ROI add-on solution from selected vendors. We have over 20 years of experience in the SAP document management implementation market and offer a variety of services and tools to support you in this market. Please go ahead and check out our website at www.SolutionXchg.com, and you will find interesting information, more information on the Archive Content Connector and other tools and showcases that we have available for you. This concludes the presentation part of the webinar. Now let me see if we have any questions. We have a few here, so let me just go through them. Question number one here is, can we administer the ACC with our own staff? Yes, absolutely. The ACC is a very simple tool that runs as a web service in an Apache Tomcat, just like the SAP Content Server or some OpenText products or the KGS Content Server. It's easy to maintain and very easy to install. The installation itself can be done with preparation in a couple of hours, and we are glad to help. Second question we have here, can the ACC be virtualized? Absolutely. There's no server requirement. It can run on a VM image and with that be available on standby with very little system requirements, and on trigger basically awake and provide the necessary system connectivity. How can we integrate archives from different vendors was another question here. Very easy. You can, for example, typically in a migration scenario, you would have, let's say, an SAP content server and maybe an OpenText system or a KGS content server, and you want to combine those. The ACC is agnostic to what underlying servers it is working with its full support of the SAP ArchiveLink interface. It can take any SAP ArchiveLink call and translate it and transpose it into a properly and well-formatted SAP ArchiveLink call for any fully compliant archiving solution. The call essentially is the same based on SAP's definitions, whether it goes out to an OpenText system, to an SAP content server, or a KGS solution. So the ACC does have to take care of some security handling. It has to take care of transposing the call and redirecting it to the correct archiving server, and then handling the response in a proper way and redirecting that to the actual source. So it does work like a roundabout, like a traffic control cop that is in the middle of a circle and is sending the calls the right direction and funneling the response back in a meaningful and correct way. And that brings us to the end of our webinar. If you have any more questions, please send an email to info@solutionxchg.com. That is info@SolutionXchg.com. We're happy to help you install your own copy of the ACC for testing purposes. And also, if you have any questions on pricing and availability for your particular system requirements, please let us know. With that, I thank you very much for your attention to our webinar today. I hope you have enjoyed the presentation. Until next time, thank you very much and goodbye.